Welcome once again. I'm hoping that it's not too loud because there's a lot of traffic going on outside. Today I'm going to be talking about lockdown. So at the beginning of lockdown, I'd done a video sort of, checking in with everyone, reminding people that none of them had an obligation to give all of their energy to someone else and couldn't expect other people to do the same, and just to generally do what made them happy throughout lockdown, because it was something that none of us had ever had to go through before and everyone was in the same boat. um, for me, lockdown was, I kind of had an awesome time. The beginning of it was very productive, and by the beginning I literally mean the first 4 days. uh, Beyond that, it just wasn't. Around end of week 2, I kind of felt almost a bit of guilt about the fact that I hadn't been productive, that I hadn't been learning something or baking or all this other wank. And it was in week 3 when I was like, actually, why would I feel guilty about that? It's not affecting anyone. The only people I see is my extended bubble on the weekend, and it doesn't impact any of them. It doesn't matter whether I've learned an art, whether I'm just sat on my ass the whole time, or as I was actually doing, sorry guys, singing to my neighbours a hell of a lot. So lockdown, the actual process of lockdown, the period of lockdown, didn't really impact me in a negative way. In fact, if anything, I benefited from the level 4 lockdown, the serious lockdown, because everything was out of my hands. So for me, there was no point in stressing about whether I could do anything or whether things were going to change. I didn't have a say in it. It wasn't my decisions that decided whether I could work or how much I would work and things like that. So I just had to run with it, and I started sleeping. So for those of you who know me, which I presume is everyone watching this, because I'm not an influencer, this literally gets seen by about 20 people each time. I'm not a big sleeper. I've always had problems with sleeping. A good night for me would generally be 3 to 4 hours uninterrupted. But those good nights are few and far between, or they were pre-lockdown. But around week 3, I started sleeping, getting full night's sleep, not living in my brain, thinking about what I had to do, what I had to pay for, what my deadlines were, all of that other, real life adulting stuff. And so I started to learn to relax, which again, if you know me, not something I'm very good at. My brain's always got something going on. Can't click. My brain's always got something going on, good or bad. I'm a very reflective person, and so my brain's just full go. But that started to slow down during lockdown, purely because my routine was wake up, exist, shower, eat, sing, doodle, write, whatever, Monday to Friday, then go to my friends and hang out, cook and party and watch movies and do whatever with them for 4 weeks. That was my life, and there's nothing stressful about that. So I started sleeping properly. Then we moved into level 2 for the first time, and I was buzzing. I was like super hyped to be able to work again, because I like working. I don't always love the jobs I'm in at the time sometimes, but I like working. I like being busy. I like using my skills and my talents towards being an adult and making a living. But when we were coming into level 2, I was really just excited to get back out in the world until it happened. And some people around me were the same. We were going on the first day of level 2 when it was going to be groups of 10 signing in, and we planned this, and we're like, yes, it's gonna be fucking awesome. We're gonna see all our friends again, but we still can't actually hug anyone or anything like that. So one of my friends got very overwhelmed by the prospect of this, and it wasn't until I saw that happen that I kind of did a little bit. I understood where they were coming from, because we were getting hyped to go back to a life that didn't exist, or a routine that didn't exist. But once the level 2 eased up a bit into like the, you didn't have to be groups of 10 and yeah, go hug your friends and whatever. They were all good. And that's when I started switching, because during this period of time where I had not really had to think about anything and not really had my life in my own hands so much, everything would strip back. All of the clients I had stripped back. The people I was hanging out with had stripped back. I was down literally to seeing my best friend and then their 4 housemates who I was knew but was getting to know more over this period of time. So everyone else, everyone I worked with, all my other close friends, all my drinking buddies, all the sort of just everyone around my life had been gone, and all my responsibilities. And coming back into everything, I realized in several cases that I didn't miss as much as I thought I would. And so a couple of weeks into level 2, or maybe even at the start of level 1, I actually started to get really down. My mental health was suffering quite a bit because I just felt misplaced, is probably the best word for it. I felt like the life that existed before lockdown kind of still did, but that I no longer fit into it because I didn't want to. I didn't miss some people as much as I thought. I didn't miss aspects of my job as much as I thought. There was just so many things that I went back to that no longer fit right with me, and it took me a while to sort of to adjust. And I was real dark for a little bit. I was actually having real bad social anxiety, and I was crying quite a lot, particularly if I'd had a drink. Thankfully, I had a great support system around me, and they had a great level of empathy with that. But I just then had to look at who and what I wanted to bring back in my life. It was an opportunity for me to go, well, hang on, I've been without all this stuff for this period of time. Just because I now have access to it doesn't mean I need to take that access, doesn't mean I need to grant access to me. Because in the months going into lockdown, I was on a huge high. I was away all but 4 weekends between mid-November and the week before lockdown. I was going to like Auckland regularly and hanging out with awesome people there, and going on little adventures with my best friend, and going to festivals and doing loads of work and meeting loads of new people who were all real fun, and I was just buzzing for months. And then that all went, but because it went out of my control, it didn't impact me so much. It was when I came back and it was in my control, and that buzz had gone, and I wasn't able to see, like, it wasn't able to go up to Auckland and see people there, and wasn't able to go buzzing around the country and go to these festivals and that. Then I kind of had the come down from it. And, as they say, back to reality, but it wasn't my reality. And it was real strange. And it took me probably a month, I would say, of being in level 1 before I could even look at what I wanted to do. Once I stopped being dark, once I recognized what my problem was, and once I was aware of the fact that I didn't want to return to the life I had before lockdown in its entirety, then I got to start looking at what it was that I wanted to do. I'm actually probably just getting there now, and for the first time in my life probably really look at exactly where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do in terms of work and who was around me and the time I give to people. It's really only been just now that I've made my decisions and started planning, regardless of whether levels change again. I know sort of what I want to be doing and where I want to be in a few months' time, and who I want to be there with. I've made the most of having this enforced downtime and had voluntary downtime afterwards. I've not been in a huge rush to get back to having like a billion clients and working endless hours and being stressed by work. You know, the main thing I realized actually work was my biggest stress at work, was the thing that really kept me awake most nights. So that's been my main sort of focus in looking at what I want to do for work and how I want to do it and who I want to do that with or for, and taking things a bit more into my own hand and not just going along with things because that's what I've always done. Like going into level 2 this time, I didn't feel any sense of real worry. Some mild frustration, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, it's not been too bad. Level 2, it didn't impact me in a massive way. But I know I'm very fortunate to have been able to look at things in the way I have and to have come out of it the way that I have. I certainly feel like I've come out of it certainly in worse physical shape, but definitely in better mental shape. A lot of people I know have really struggled with it. You know, I know the lockdown certainly had its impact on a lot of relationships. It was such a strange situation for everyone, and to, you know, you really sort of get to know how you feel about people when you're forced to be with them or forced to be apart from them. You don't always like the answer. It's not always, you know, it's not really a nice feeling to have been forced to be away from someone and realize that you didn't miss them, or to be forced to be with someone and realize that actually maybe you don't want to be around them, like even afterwards, and not just because of the circumstance. You sort of realize that actually maybe you don't mesh quite as well as you thought, and that's pretty jarring. You know, as we know from these videos, I'm very reflective. I look inwards a lot, so I do analyze my relationships with people quite regularly. So it was good for me to come out of it and compartmentalize these things. But for lots of people, they don't really have the tools to do that, or haven't really looked at what it is that has changed for the better and for worse. A lot of people have just come out of it wanting to cling on to any remnants of normality that was there before, and people are obviously concerned about work and not wanting to leave jobs because there might not be other jobs out there. And so I think a lot of people feel almost even more claustrophobic coming out of lockdown than they did before, because their eyes have been open to some things, but it feels like a bit too much of a risk to speak out about it or to step away from something. But ultimately, you're going to be happier when you do. There's nothing worse than feeling held hostage by a position or an environment. You know, so many of my friends are on visas. They have no idea what's going to happen. Even if they're happy in their jobs, that feeling of being forced to stand on the spot, it's horrible. Just the idea of knowing that my only option to stay was to stay right there, it made it feel like a burden. So for those of you who are in that position, I feel you. Try not to let it get to you too much. It can be a lot worse if you if you jump ship prematurely. I would say to anyone that's feeling in that position, just take some time to yourself and really review what your life was like before lockdown and during and after. Press a reset button. You can do it. Ultimately, as with everything, it's how you choose to see it and how you choose to deal with it. I chose to take it as an opportunity to look at my life and break it down into parts and rebuild it with the strongest bricks. And I encourage all of you to try and do the same if you're still struggling, or if you're not sure where you fit afterwards, or if you're not sure quite where your head is. We have no idea how long this is going to go on. There is no point in wrecking your brain about it. All we can do is try and get on with our lives the best we can. And so that's me for this one. As I say every time, look after each other, look after yourselves. If you need anything, I'm here. And next time we're going to be talking about empathy.